I just recently became a security officer. I never thought I'd end up working a night shift job. I had always been a day person, enjoying the sun and being active during the day. But when I lost my previous job and had bills piling up, I had to take what I could get. The job was at an old, rundown factory on 10 acres of land. It was creepy just driving up to the place, as the light posts near it were so dim that it might as well not be there and wouldn't make any difference. I needed the money, so I pushed aside an uneasy feeling inside me and headed inside. My first night on the job was quiet, almost too quiet. I spent the entire time walking around the factory floor, making sure everything was running smoothly. The first night ended just like that. I let out a huge sigh of relief as I saw the sun coming out. I got braver the next night, as I thought it was just gonna be like the first one. To my relief, it did. Then a week later, it all changed. I went back to the place, and when I went inside and closed the door, I thought I also heard a door closing from the afar. My head snapped to look at the direction and listened intently, but when I heard nothing else, I thought it was just the echoes of me closing the front door. I then went and do my normal routine, checking every rooms and spaces. After a bit, I thought I heard footsteps behind me, so I paused and looked back. I didn't see anything, but the moment I took a step again, another step came from behind me. I whipped back to check, but when I saw nothing, I started having goosebumps. I decided to just skip the rest of the routine and went to a room to rest. When I turned around a corner, I saw something ahead moved. The movement was very small, but I could tell it did. I flashed my light towards it, and my heart was dropped. It was someone peeking from the corner, looking at me. It was a man. After a moment, I then logically think that it was just a normal person. When I was about to go to him to ask why he was there, I was hit with a smell like none other. The smell was so bad that I actually vomited. After I finished vomiting, I looked at the man again, and he was still at the same position, just looking at me. It was then that I knew the man was not normal. I slowly backed away and turned to the way I came from. To my horror, the same man was there too, looking at me with those same blank face expression. Since that was the only way to the front of the building, I slowly inched closer and closer to him. When I reached him, I thought he was going to jump at me, but he didn't. He didn't even move his head to look at me, so I slowly made my way past him. When I finally saw the back of his head, my heart almost stopped. It looked like someone shot him with a shotgun. Against my gut instinct telling me to run, a thought deep inside me suddenly think that maybe it was just an injured man. I weakly let out a sound, and when I did, the head instantly rotated towards me and then it dropped to the ground. I let out the loudest scream I had ever done and ran like my life depended on it to my car. I was still yelling when I drove away. I quit that job. I might need a job badly, but I needed my sanity even more. About a year ago, I joined this job that I loved. It was a boring office job, but to me it was better than a factory worker or just working outside in general in the sun and cold. One night I had to stay up late to finish a big project before the deadline. The rest of the staff had already gone home, leaving me alone in the office. I had been here at night for so many times that I've gotten used to it, to the atmosphere. To me, I thought this would be just a normal night, but I was wrong. I was on my computer, typing away when the room just suddenly started to get cold. It was not gradually, but you could instantly feel the office go cold. I looked up, and the lights were all out except for the one in my office. I didn't know what to think or how to react to this situation, so for a moment I just froze, standing there looking and collecting my thoughts. The best thing I could think of was to just sit down on my computer and try to call someone. The moment I thought my phone, I suddenly heard a sound coming from the hallway. My heart started racing as I strained to hear the sound again. It was a soft shuffling noise, like someone was dragging their feet along the carpet. I tried to convince myself that it was just the cleaning crew or a security guard doing their rounds, but the feeling of unease wouldn't go away. I got up from my desk and cautiously made my way towards the hallway. As I peeked around the corner, I saw a figure standing at the end of the hallway. I just froze when I saw that. I was always a scaredy cat when it comes to stuff like this, so when I saw a figure at the end of the hall, my brain did not know how to react. As I was staring at the figure, it suddenly made a movement. Each time the figure moved, it made a sound as if bones were breaking inside of him. When the figure turned right in my direction, I saw its face. It was a face I will never forget. The face was normal looking at first, but the more I looked at it, the more I felt that something was different. I just couldn't put my finger on it. It was like looking at an AI-generated face. To me, a face like that was even more scary than a typical ghost face. It then slowly opened its mouth to make a croaking sound. The moment it did, I just sprinted into action. I dashed with all my might to the front door and made my way out, not even bothering to lock the door. I ran all the way and did not take a breather until I was safely inside my car. Then to my horror, I saw a hand reaching out from inside to slowly close the front door of the building. I went home, and that night I couldn't sleep at all. I was sick for a few days after that. When I went back a couple of days later, everything was normal. Too abnormally normal. I resigned a few weeks later, as I always got a weird feeling whenever I went in. As a security guard, I have seen my fair share of creepy things. But staying overnight at the funeral home was by far the most terrifying experience of my career. I don't like staying overnight at funerals, so I tend to avoid it at all costs whenever the subject was brought up by my supervisor, but sadly I just had to take this job and couldn't slip my way out of it like I always did. So at night, I went to park at the funeral. When I looked towards the dark entrance of the front door, my heart started pumping faster and faster. For some unknown reason, I was more scared than ever that night. I tried to calm my nerve before going in, because I did not want to do my job in that state. It was a quiet night, as it usually is at the funeral home. I was making my rounds, checking all the doors and windows to make sure they were secure. As I was walking through the chapel, I suddenly felt a cold chill run down my spine. I looked around, but there was no one there. I began walking faster and faster so that I could finish my round and go sit at a safe spot. I continued my rounds, but the feeling of being watched only intensified. I could hear faint whispers in the distance, but when I went to investigate, there was no one there. I wasn't sure if I heard noises because I was just too nervous or if there really were noises. I decided to take a break and sit in the security office for a bit. The moment I sat down, I pulled out my phone to use it to distract me from everything. Everything went smoothly for an hour or so, then I started to relax. Maybe everything will be okay, I thought. Well, I thought wrong. I was using my phone, and then as soon as I stood up to stretch, I heard a loud bang. I froze and listened very intently to what it was. There, the loud bang could be heard again. I couldn't quite catch where the sound was coming from, so I did not move at all and just stood very still. Then I heard a loud bang from one of the rooms. I quickly grabbed my flashlight and ran towards the noise. When I entered the room, I was greeted by a sight that will haunt me for the rest of my life. There was a casket there, on top of the altar. There was not supposed to be any casket tonight, and when I did my round earlier and came to this spot, there was no casket then. I started freaking out. I then heard the distinct noise of a toilet being flushed in the bathroom near me. I just lost it then. I ran back out and back to my car. I just drove out of the parking lot, and when I was safely at home, I called my supervisor and I told him, "Nope, I'm not going back to the funeral home, even if it costed me my job." Thank God the supervisor was understanding. I never went back to that funeral home again. The thought of spending another night there gives me nightmares to this day.